down.
Oh dear.
Not a dang thing.
Are we ready to go?
We're just waiting for verification right here.
Okay. Where did you go, Susan?
San Francisco. Yeah, it was great. It was a quickie. Kind of last minute, we were going on the UTV trail.
Look at that.
Pacemaker last minute, so.
Oh, that's not good.
Well, I've already got that time, so I shifted gears too. So that's what I found.
Wow. We ready? Okay, we'll get started. Welcome to Iron County Commission meeting, Monday, the 10th day of October, 2022. And we will start out with a prayer from Royce Nelson and a pledge from George Colson after that.
Father in heaven, we're thankful for the country we live in, for the opportunity to control our own destiny. We're very thankful for the commissioners and the work that they do here in the Iron County Commission, and for this meeting. We pray that thy Spirit will be here, and that the decisions that are made might be in the long-term benefit of the county. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Royce and George. I guess we need to excuse Sam Woodall, our attorney. He's not able to be here, so John's going to try to keep me out of jail and on the right track.
We're going to follow all the rules today.
Could we get a motion on the minutes, 9/26/2022?
I'll move to approve the minutes of September 26, 2022. And we also have, do we have October 9th as well, John? Let's
We
see.
already did
Oh, that's
those.
claims. Okay,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
That's claims,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
claims.
Hear me.
I'll second on the minutes.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Can we have an approval of claims?
Yeah, I'll move for approval of the claims of payment from September 26, 2022 to October 9th, 2022.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Those back over. All right. Well, we'll go to departmental reports. We'll start out with Karsten Reed, Assessor's Office.
So, a couple things. We change in our office, we lost Brittany Fisher, and Brittany was a real asset to the county. You know, she had a lot of talent, very intelligent person. She earned her second master's degree, and of course a lot of opportunities opened for her, and she decided to pursue one of those, and so we lost her. But the silver lining is we were able to hire, which HR will discuss a little bit later, Joseph Peterson, and he has a degree from the, I think, University of Arizona, data analytics, really just a perfect fit for our office, really intelligent, capable gentleman. So we're really excited about that. We have made one small change in our office, and just recently, after the roll closed, we just closed the roll. We are kind of moving towards a hybrid system, a hybrid work schedule. The hope is we're one of the few counties that actually don't work a hybrid work schedule that is our size or bigger. And the you know, there's some upsides and downsides to that. But the hope is that there's a lot more productivity. That's what other counties have reported. They haven't had to hire. They've been able to stave off hiring as their counties have grown by being a little bit more flexible with that work schedule. People tend to get a lot of work done at home, stuck in their home offices, not talking to anybody, and so productivity has gone up. I'm hoping to see that as well. What I've told our office is that if we don't see that, we may have to just go back to a regular, regular desk office type work. And so I'll report back to you in the next few months when we do close the first quarter of that to see if the metrics are there and we've increased productivity. So the idea really is to help save the county a little bit of money by not having to hire an additional employee or to delay that hiring because productivity is increased. So that's sort of the main effort with that schedule. Another quick thing with regards to our budget is, of course, we've had to train a number of new people, and so we've exceeded the one place we've actually saved in every line item in our budget. We're way below where our budget actually is, except for training. And training, we've exceeded it. We're in the last quarter, we just exceeded our training budget, and we'll continue to exceed it because we just hired somebody that needs additional training, and the rest of the people aren't fully trained. So we have a little bit of a budget issue there that's hard to get around, just because the nature of what we do is it's intense renewal of education. So we're constantly having to go to the state to receive education and pay the state. So that's the challenge that we have right now. The county did benefit in one way when Brittany left. Of course, she paid back roughly $10,000 of education, which isn't reflected in our budget, but we got 10 grand back, so that's a bonus. And I just wanted to make you aware that that's the case, but of course we'll talk about that in our budget meeting as well. So a couple other things of interest. The state, just the assessors have discussed the possibility of increasing. There's been a lot of frustration with taxation this year. It's been across the state, especially with people's primary residences. It's a real challenge when you're in a fixed income, or even just a middle class working blue collar person to sort of keep up with these increasing taxing entities, primarily the schools.
With inflation on top of that.
Inflation, there's some struggles there. One of the discussions has been increasing the primary residential exemption, and from 45 to 65. To get it up to a higher percentage, so that the individual primary homeowner is less burdened by taxation. And so I'll update you as that plays out. It's legislative, obviously, but we're involved in that discussion. So just to give you a heads up. Any questions? Okie dokie.
Good job.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karsten. Okay, we are going to go to fair, and that's Susan and Joyce.
I guess I need to come up first, or get to.
Get to.
Overall, I think once again the fair was a success. One thing that happened first, we moved the mud bog and the demo up 1 week to help out the demo, and it brought down the mud bog a little bit because people were used to that third weekend and were not aware, and so we were down on cars for the mud bog, and people about the same, but it's definitely our smallest area, but it still makes a little bit of money. The demolition derby had larger numbers than we've had for a while. We were worried that the new bleachers wouldn't fill up, but once again we were sold out for the demolition derby, and it held its own. The carnival was up slightly, but they were down quite a bit on Monday. I think the heat killed us on Monday. It was extremely hot, and I think crowds went to the parade and went and ate, and then they just plain went home because it was just too hot to be there. We collected around $33,000 on the carnival, which is still a little bit higher than it's been. They were hoping for a bigger jump, but I'm sure heat.
Monday was probably
I'm sure heat killed us. Saturday they had a huge night. We worked really hard on getting more sponsorships. So far this year we've collected about $101,000 for sponsorships, and we still have the opportunity of maybe collecting a little bit more. So I'm really proud of how hard we've worked, and I'm proud of the community for wanting to help to make the fair a success. The rodeos continuing to grow. It's getting more and more recognition in the PRCA crowd. We had a lot of cowboys that will be going to the NFR this year. That's kind of exciting. And we also this year, for the first time, had animals that will be going to the NFR. I don't know if you guys know anything about rodeo, but Jitterbug was there, and Son of Sadie was there, and their
Barty Rodeos.
Barty Rodeos
Stock.
yeah, that they actually brought down NFR type animals, and so that's we need to be really proud of that. Jeff also mentioned that this year, between having the good cowboys and the good animals, we had scores that were like 89 and 88, which is almost unheard of. That's big rodeo scores.
NFR
Yeah, that's
type.
yeah. So we're very proud of it. The Friday crowd was good this year. Can't complain. Saturdays was sold out. We filled up all those brand new bleachers and then some. Monday we struggle, and we struggle every year, but this year, because of the heat, it was down. But we keep working on the rodeo on Monday. The cost for the rodeo is approximately $101,000. A lot of money. We took in $64,512 at the gates. And so that takes about $36,000 of our sponsorship money goes towards rodeo to make it break even. So that so that it breaks even. We need to have a big thank you to all of the volunteers that worked so hard this year. Hundreds of volunteers, and they are always excited to help and make the fair a success, and make it just a wonderful event for the community. And they're so excited to do that. So I think the fair was overall a success. There were more people. We filled the new parking lot, and then some.
Some.
The new improvements are wonderful. It made the whole fairgrounds look like they were clean, they were kept up. We had so many compliments from everybody in the community how wonderful they looked. The fence is great. Everything about it needs more work, but it's coming, and it just looks so much better, and so we can be proud. And thank you guys so much for taking ownership in it and helping us out, because there's no way we could do it without all of you guys. So are there any questions?
So overall, Joyce, how did we do on the fair?
We still haven't got all of our bills paid. We haven't got them all, and we still haven't got all of our income. So,
Are we close
and
to
then
breaking
and then
even, or do we-
and then bottom line, if you look at our budget, it's really hard to separate it out because it shows a lot of money that we've spent. And then I try and take that out, and it comes back to about the budget that we have spent in the past.
Well, with Maria, the TRT money,
Well,
that
well,
helped
yeah,
a lot on all the improvements.
yeah,
so
yeah,
it didn't
'cause-
come out
so
of
it's
your.
hard. So it's hard. I feel like a lot of the improvements are kind of like right now a big dark hole because I
Don't know.
I don't even, I didn't sign them. I don't know really a whole bunch about them. I think that we came out about the same, just
Not even.
from what I can see, if you take out all of the large fair improvements out of that, I think
And
we're
that shouldn't be included in the.
no, well, but it's
Separate
hard
capital
looking at our report. It's hard to pull all of that stuff out and make it look like it should. Any other questions?
I think it's good. Thank you, Joyce. We sure appreciate you for all your years of service, and you've built this fair into such a wonderful thing that we're so thankful for you.
Well, I think I started out with something that was pretty small, and it's not me. For sure it's not me, because we have hundreds of volunteers that get so excited in Parowan about it being their day, and they
But you've
love
led
it.
that.
Mike, you guys have.
Yeah.
I've had commissioners that have backed us 100% to help it be something that is good for not just for Parowan, but for for the whole Iron County. And Iron County's growing, and so therefore, there's more people that are excited about coming to the fair.
Yeah.
Now we'll turn the time to Susan for a minute.
Okay.
I don't know how I can follow that. Yeah, we've, as we sat there and we looked at the budget, it does look pretty even. Of course, we can't include all those numbers that got included, this year, that are outside our parameters of what we can do. I would say we're pretty even right there as I looked at the budget and I went through the numbers, asked questions and such. So I think, overall we did a really good job of watching what we had to do. Some stuff, it's a little bit lower as far as budget. Some things came in a lot higher. So that's where we're kind of evening out, and that's a good thing. Going forward, we're already working on next year's, and we're excited about that. And because I'm here and I'm full-time, I've got to look and see what other things. And so we are looking at a lot of different avenues. We have our first food truck roundup this Saturday. And it's, we try to keep it kind of in small numbers and such, but we're trying to build something. And that I've already got a conflict on a weekend for something that I've got two groups wanting to try and come in. I thought, what? Can I spread this
That's
out?
awesome.
You know? Yeah. So I think overall it's a good thing, and I think as the word goes out and as we move forward, because this is the no man's land right now and stuff, but as we push ourselves along and make ourselves known, I think people are getting to know who we are and what we're doing and what we're trying to accomplish here. And, you know, it's getting the word out, I think, mostly. So I'm pretty optimistic about it and really excited about it as well. And good job to Joyce and all of the volunteers. I mean, that's what it takes, and it's a we and an us thing. It's not an I and a me. So it's been a good thing. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Joyce.
We'll go to IT. Jared?
Morning.
Morning.
Good to see all of you guys. Not really a whole lot to chat about, and I don't have anything prepared. We've had a busy weekend and all, but kind of the forefront of news is we lost our web developer, as you're aware. So Justin's moved on, and we went through the hiring process, and I'm sure that the HR will present that probably later today. But we've had a person accept, so we're excited. Start next week, so that'll be great. Have him on board. Other than that, we've got some huge projects coming up. We just finished up, Kendall actually finished up a couple. He finished up a Spillman integration with GIS, and he's still kind of going through that process still, just kind of touching up on it really, but it should streamline everything, make everything a little better for dispatch and address points and everything else for locations. The other big one that he's been working with is with the recorder's office, doing their parcel stuff, and he's about got it to where we got a really cool. I hope Carrie's really excited about it. I'm probably more excited than Carrie is. I don't know. She might say a little bit more about it, but it's a cool little plat map that you can just hit print, and it'll print out some good information there for us.
Wow.
So he's worked really hard on that. We are swamping him. He's got lots
I
on
know.
his
He
plate. So we are doing that to him as well. But anyway, so we had those couple big projects. Our big projects coming up was where I've signed the agreements for the RFP to move to a new phone system. So we've got 30 to 45 days now that we've got to wait for numbers to be poured in that before we can really start. And then we got a lot of back end work. And then once we get all that programming done and everything on the back end, then we'll start implementing the new phones coming through. And the county should see a savings through that. So we're excited about that. And then the other two projects is we're looking at a new security device to put in, which should help out a lot with our security issues that come through. And then also a new backup that's also going to be more cost effective and actually easier to operate and run. So we're excited about all those things as well. And as far as the budget goes, it looks like we're doing pretty good. Like I visited with you guys before about the whole phone thing, so I think it'll be absorbed in this year's budget, but there might be a little bit there, but that might roll over. But like I said, our ROI on that one's going to be really fast, and we're going to save the county money. So it's a good thing to move forward on. So anyway, that's all I really have to report, unless you guys have questions or anything. So
Thank
No.
you, Jared.
hey,
Thank
Yeah.
you.
thanks.
Appreciate that. Okay, recorder, Carrie.
First of all, I am actually really, really excited also about our GIS. It's been a long project, but we are almost done. We will be done by the end of the year. And of course, I need to give a shout out to Jared and Kendall both. There's no way I could have done this without their support, and they've been amazing. I couldn't have asked for better help than I've gotten. So thank you.
They're awesome.
Yeah, they really are. So our recordings are down a little bit. We're starting to slow down a little bit. Yay.
Yay.
For me, maybe not for everybody. I don't know if it's the time of the year or just the way the real estate market is. We're starting to slow down. So we had about 700 less total recordings for the quarter. Last quarter, our plats were 22, and we only had 12, which is really great for my office, too. We've been really busy. It's been a crazy couple years for us.
Yeah.
Between our GIS and then just the fact that the real estate market went crazy. You know, it's been a lot for us, so it's nice to have
Maybe
a little
that was a
breather.
crazy time to implement all of that new stuff.
It sure was, and when I decided to do it, I didn't know that's what the market was going to do.
No, none of us did, I'm sure.
Yeah, but it's all good. Everything's been great. My budget's right on. and I don't see any problems with that to finish out the year. And I think we're good. You guys have any questions?
I just appreciate you so much. You know, we don't hear much from
No?
Gary. She just does her little job, and
Yeah.
you know, we don't hear any bad either. So that's
That
the
is
great
good.
thing. So we appreciate you just staying in your lane and just doing your job, and
Well, thank you.
that's really nice. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we will go to Treasurer Nicole. And as she's walking up here, I have to say she's our flood watch lady. And it's so awesome to have somebody over in Paragoon that can run over and check out an intersection or whatever.
Bruce
So,
and I were on
yep.
speed dial the last couple weeks.
Yep, Bruce and Nicole are pretty good friends these days.
Oh, I just appreciate him so much. I'm glad he dares call me because I'm right there, and my brothers are both on the fire department, so they're usually involved if there's flooding, and so I usually do have a pretty good idea what's going on. So, but Bruce is awesome and so nice. They were running over there at like 9 o'clock at night to close the road, and
Oh, yeah.
so it's been a hard year for them in
Oh, yeah.
Paragoona. We have been hit, I think, 4 times. So seems like it keeps getting the same areas this year.
It does.
So
And
I
most
think-
people don't know about it because it's in the outlying areas.
Yeah.
We've had a few houses flood this year, but not like last year, of course, but definitely it's all been in the outer areas.
See, yeah, Bruce said he's running out of dirt. I told him he's going to have to go clear out by the freeway where it's all being moved to.
Accumulating.
So, poor guy, but he's been awesome. So I always have lots of handouts. I'm sorry, but so the first is my product sales. It just shows what our collections have been since the first of the year. So almost 17 million. Of course, our big time is coming. In the next couple of days, I think Carrie's going to be sending the tax roll down. So then we will really have a lot to collect. So we're gearing up for that. Our pool cash, as you can see, our overall cash is super. We're in really great shape that way. The interest rate at the end of last month was 2.47. The last time I reported it was 1.12, so it's really on the rise. I actually went ahead and invested some more money with Morton, an additional $8 million. Our rate with them has been super good. They came and reported a few weeks ago. And if we had left the amount in the PTIF, well, I should say, because we have it with them, our interest was about $170,000 higher than it would have been leaving it, just because they have been able to have a little bit higher sustained rate. And we invested a little bit more with them because it's kind of a rare occasion they have over 3% for an extended period of time. So just because of our crazy market right now. So hopefully they said now is the perfect time, and I hope that all goes well for us. The next one I have just the funds that come to Iron County. So we're just over $3 million of funds that have come to Iron County. And we are shaking it up this year. So I gave you a Davis County tax notice. This is, and ours is kind of right behind it, but I wanted you to be able to see the pie chart. So we're adding that this year. We're hoping that helps a little bit.
I bet
We
that
have a
will.
lot of people that are mad about how much money Iron County gets, and so I'm hoping this will help them to see really where their tax money is going. And so I think they forget a lot that this money is going to their cities, to their schools, to the Water Conservancy. So I think this will maybe help a little bit. We're a little bit worried about those who did not open their disclosure notices and their values being a bit of surprise when they get their tax bills. So we're hoping that will maybe answer some questions, and we try to simplify it a little bit, and then most of the detailed tax information will be on the back. So we hope that will be a good change. We're also moving to bill tracks. They're going to be emailing a lot of tax notices for us. We have a lot of people that have signed up so far, and we're hoping some more will. That seems to be the way of the future. Everyone wants to get everything by email and not through the post office, which is great for us because, of course, postage has gone up this year, and the price of paper is just increasing nonstop. So I am a little bit worried about my budget just because of how much that has gone up and how much postage has gone up. But unfortunately, I never know until toward the end of the year where we're going to be. So that I'm hoping we'll end up okay on that. So I encourage you all to sign up for Bill Tracks if you haven't. We did send a little email out to all the employees encouraging them to get in there and sign up and receive it just by email and not by paper. We're hoping a lot of people will want to do that. But a lot of big changes. We also appreciate the IT. They've really had to help us a lot with making this change to Bill Tracks and making change on the web. And we kind of had instant payments back out working with Bill Tracks, so we've had to have a whole new processor for the money. So it's been a little bit crazy. We're kind of bit off more than we were expecting, but we hope it's all going to be a good change. So we're always just trying to make it a little bit better and easier. But I want to thank my people. I think, of course, I have the two best people. Just appreciate how hard they work and never complain and do what they're asked to, and always happily serving our people here in the county. So grateful for them. Any questions?
I have one. This graph, I think that is going to be awesome.
I hope so.
It's-
I really hope
so
it's going to be a good change.
This is Davis County that we're looking at, but is that
Yes. So
similar to ours?
He has kind of ours all done together, but he just didn't have. We haven't sent him
Graph to
the
put.
extract yet, so he didn't know for sure the amount. So,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it will be in there when we get it. So
I think that's going to be very helpful.
I do too.
I really do.
I really
When you
do.
look at it on a graph, it seems like that
Yeah.
really is.
Because in comparison to everyone else, really the county gets the smallest portions. So I think that will maybe help. I hope. We just keep looking for ways to make it a little bit easier, a little bit better for everyone to understand.
Yeah.
So
That's really great. Any other
so.
questions? Guys?
Nope.
good.
Nope.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. Okay, we'll go to commission. You ready?
Sure. It's been a busy last couple of weeks since our last meeting. We met with, so we as the commission and staff, with the building department, with our engineering, with our planning, attended a belt route kickoff meeting. As you know, we've got plans to bring a belt route around the kind of the western end of Iron County, Cedar City. We've been working on that for a long time, and we had an official kickoff meeting with the engineers and kind of to get that ball rolling. I attended an update with Southwest Technical College, talking about their programs. Talked a little bit more, in the last meeting. They presented here kind of where their funding and such is going, and they've got a legislatively they're required to split their fees up and do some different things with their funding. Met with them and they had an update social kind of a thing where that was explained more. And the culinary department fed us. It was fantastic.
That was very good.
I was asked to speak at the Utah Association of Airport Operators conference. It was held in Cedar for the first time, and they couldn't remember when the last time it was held in Cedar. That was really cool. There was a couple of really cool things that came out of that. Number one, Nick Holt, who's our Cedar City airport manager, was appointed to be the president of that association. That's going to bring a lot of, it's just good to have those relationships. They're really a group of good professionals, all the airport directors in the state, the FAA, a lot of representatives from different aerospace industry. And now Nick, as being the president of that association, is going to just solid that relationship between all those parties. It was also cool. It was held over this last weekend. Saturday night was the closing of the fall schedule, of the fall schedule for the Utah Shakespeare Festival. They actually offered up some discounts to the attendees of the meeting, and had several people take advantage of that. So we were able to bring airport operators to Shakespeare. So I really appreciate Don Jersey and Nick for making that happen. Marilyn and I attended a dinner the other night with Southern Utah University International Affairs. They're opening a new Chinese cultural center, the Helen Foster Snow Center for Chinese Studies and Cultural Events. I think it'll be it's always a cool thing just to broaden those relationships. Had on Saturday attended the airport fly-in. Paul had a lot to do with that, and his family was there making breakfast. It was, again, a cool thing for the community to be able to come in and see what the airport does. Attended the Harvest Festival at Nature Hills Farm. You got to kind of look and see how important local farming is to bring food to the table, to really understand the process, that you don't go buy all your food at the grocery store. It has to come from somewhere. Nature Hills Farm has put that on, and I think there's a couple of more dates through this next weekend that takes place, and I would encourage everybody to go visit. It's really pretty cool. Chamber of Commerce put on their Fall Pumpkin Fest out at Diamond Z Arena. It was a big success, had a lot of people there, a lot of vendors. We spent a lot of time over the last couple of weeks, and specifically Monday and Tuesday of this last week, we held interviews for our open position of our Children's Justice Center director. I want to thank everybody that was involved in that. There's a bunch. I'll forget somebody, so I won't name names. But we spent basically 2 full days in those interviews. It was good to see. I think we've got some really viable candidates that are going to do really great things moving forward. The county attorney's office, Chad, ultimately will make that decision, and we'll move forward with that, that organization. We held our first jail site selection committee meeting. There were some great comments that came out of that. We reviewed several different potential sites and got some direction kind of as to where we're going to move forward within that process. It was really good to have some public input there. And I attended the Canyon Creek Services Masquerade Ball fundraiser the other night. Again, a big success. Lots of people there. They were able to raise lots of money to continue that service. That's such a valuable service. They're one of those organizations that they're a nonprofit organization. They work on grant funding. They work on donations. But if they weren't there, that responsibility of taking care of of that population of folks would fall back on the county. And we just don't have the resources to do that near as well as they do. So that was a great event to be involved in. That's about it.
Okay, good job. Paul.
Mike mentioned the flying breakfast. We've done that for a lot of years. It started out being our scout troop in our LDS ward, Troop 1865. They would cook breakfast for the pilots flying into the airport and other community members, and it's kind of morphed into a youth fundraiser for our youth in our area, our ward. I think we cooked a couple thousand pancakes. We fed a lot of people. I think we fed over 1,300 people Saturday morning, so it was really, really successful and a lot of fun. Beautiful time of year to be out there, and we really appreciate the Levitts. They every year they let us use their hangar, and it's really a nice facility for folks to come and enjoy a breakfast. And I took my grandsons on an airplane ride. They really loved that. My 5-year-old thought that he was flying to Vegas, so he packed his pockets full of treats, and he didn't realize it was only a 10-minute flight. But they had a lot of fun. It was great. Appreciate the airport doing that. I was visiting with Ray Bullock, owner of Bullock Dirt Works, this last week, and he mentioned a friend of his out that he does a lot of work for. His name is Randy Moore. It's Gold Springs. It's out by Modena, just kind of on the Utah-Arizona or Utah-Nevada border. And Marilyn and I actually went out. That road's been flooded a lot of times, and we went out and looked at that and got a mine tour. The Gold Springs, they're a mining exploration operation. And it was really interesting to see the old historical sites and what they've identified. I think that if my memory serves me correct, and this doesn't include this year's drilling, but they level pads and they drill holes about every 150 feet to see what kind of gold and silver is out there. I think, not counting this year, Randy said they had 900,000 ounces of gold identified and about 13 million ounces of silver. If they are going to, they'll either mine it or have another company mine that, but it could be one of the largest mining operations, gold and silver, in the world. It's really fascinating and be good for Iron County. Today at 4 o'clock, they're having a ribbon cutting out at the BZI/Visco industrial park that they're creating out on Iron Springs Road. Ryan O'Bray with BZI, they're doing a rail spur. They're doing a on and offload station there for different things. It's going to be really, really neat. But that rail spur is going to be awesome for that industrial park. But that's today at 4 o'clock for those that are interested and like to go out. One last thing. We finally finished, thanks to the road department. We couldn't really get anybody to help us pave. All the paving companies were so far out, but the road department helped us complete the 800 South crosscut for the flooding, and I think that's going to be. I went out a couple of times when it was really severe storms, and it was working like a dream. Once they cleaned that channel going west to Quichapa and that crosscut, it really works good. And I think that'll alleviate some of the flooding issues those folks have out there in Westview. And so we really appreciate Bruce and the road department for coming through and helping us get that paved. And Curtis DeMille, all his efforts, and our county engineer. And we actually hired Curtis Jr. DeMille to help with concrete. And it turned out really good, and we appreciate their efforts. That's all I have.
Great. I'll just reiterate about some of the other things that they talked. Kimley Horn is the company that's doing the bypass access plan, and it was really interesting. They will go to every intersection and decide what is the safest, what's the best way. If there's other intersections close to that, I know on 56, where we come across 56, they're going to have to decide whether to go over a roundabout, what we do there. and Iron Springs takes off right there. You know, they've talked about what do we do with those two different intersections so closely related. So that's what they're going to do is really, it'll take about a year, I think, of in-depth looking at all of the different belt route and the way that it comes around and how that's going to play out. On the first, I went to I've been involved. It's called the ZRC workshop, and we had it in Laverican. We've gone to Zion, and the Zion folks are all very involved with this. And they've asked us to come on board with them just to make sure that the whole community, Southern Utah, is on board and ways that we can eliminate the congestion in Zion, and of course the other development around that. There in Laverican and Tokerville, there's a huge big projects that are coming into there. I hadn't heard about those. There's going to be a belt route there, and there'll be a lot of development there. You know, that's an area that's fairly rural, but I think the people have, it's a beautiful area, and I think they're really looking at that to do some development. On the 29th, I went to Iron Springs. They had a little presentation there. There's lots of fun things that are going to happen out in Iron Springs, and they revealed an artwork that was just beautiful that this guy had painted, an adventure bike riders and all of that, and they since then they've put up eagles by the statues that go out there, and it's just wonderful. I know that there's development coming there with that they want to do I talked to a couple of the folks there that they're going to do a veterans art, so that the veterans with PSD and that can come in there, and elderly, and of course Royce and his big museum they're working on, and so that's exciting. The jail meeting was interesting, and it's good to get that input from others in the community, so because we need to move forward on that. The Gold Springs tour was really great. I hadn't been out in that far out. It's right on the border of Nevada, and our guys have been out there constantly, the road crew, to fix that, and it still was not great because it's been washed out so severely this year. And but the guys have just been working really hard on that, and I appreciate the road crew for all they've done. We've been, everybody, because the basements haven't flooded and people's homes haven't flooded, but they've been to, like Nicole said, to Paraguno 4 or 5 times, and to out in the West Desert we've had a lot of flooding. So appreciate the road crew for doing that. But Randy Moore was the one that took us the Gold Springs area, and he took us to over on the Nevada side. It was a place called Deer Lodge, and the old ruins there, and it had just recently flooded a lot of the stuff there, but that company is, a lot of mining companies are out of Canada, and the reason why he told us was because they're a little more user friendly in the Toronto stock exchange, and they're thinking that if they can get all of their ducks in a row, it may be like 2 years, and they can start building the mill and start hauling, and that'll be probably about 200 jobs to Iron County if that goes. So that's really an exciting project. And I was amazed. I said, well, how much overburden is on most of this? Some of it had some overburden, but several of the places we stopped, it was right to the surface. He said it was right to the surface. So of course, you know, it has to be heat bleached out and milled and that kind of thing. So it's not like you could just go pick it up, but there's a lot there. But and of course the Helen Foster snow was very interesting at the SUU International Affairs, and that was really a nice program, and I think it's good for us to have those relationships. Okay, that's I think all I had, and we will go ahead and have a little break. Let's come.
I've got one more
Oh,
thing.
one more thing.
I forgot one more important thing that I forgot. Maria Twitchell, our tourism director,
Oh yes,
was inducted into the Utah Tourism Hall of Fame.
that's a big deal.
That's usually they usually give you that on your way out in retirement, kind of a lifetime achievement. That's a huge deal. You know, I told her she's still in the prime of her career. She's maybe halfway through, and I don't know if she appreciated that, but she didn't necessarily agree. But I mean, it's such a huge deal, and we do. I mean,
Well deserved.
She brings so much to our county. Her expertise, not only in tourism but outdoor recreation and everything that goes along with that. That was in Vernal last Friday. I wasn't able to attend. I had a son coming home off a mission that same day. I tried everything I could to figure out how to get to Vernal and then back to Cedar for the 6:00 flight. I just couldn't pull it off. But really proud of Maria for that, and we've made sure that she knows we're proud of her. But that was really cool. It was a great honor and well deserved. So
Well deserved, yeah. Thank you. I spaced that one too, so I'm glad that you remembered that one. Let's go ahead and take a break, and we'll come back on the 10 o'clock at 10 o'clock. Try to get pretty close. Go. You ready? Okay, welcome back to the 10 o'clock meeting of the Iron County Commission, Monday, the 10th day of October, 2022. And we will go ahead with the first agenda item, which is public comments. Anybody like to come up?
Good morning. I'm Jay Jones from Cedar City. I'd like to talk about my association with Southwestern Historical Center. There's a grant application that I'm looking at on their behalf, but it would also involve all of the county. The grant is administered by the Utah Office of Tourism. Money comes from the federal government for tourism incentives due to the COVID impact to tourism across the country. And so each state gets a certain allotment from the federal government, and then the Utah Office of Tourism administers that grant. There's an opportunity for a $25,000 grant, implementation grant. What we're looking at are some signs that could be put up. And specifically what we're looking at involves the casting of the lot site from the Dominguez Escalante expedition. The site is in northern Iron County in the Escalante Desert. Is east of the city of Lund, or the former town of Lund. There are roads to get there. You go out the Lund Highway. A few miles before you get to Lund, you turn north on Shopman Road. And 10 or 12 or 15 miles down Shopman Road, you turn right. On the road goes to Mud Springs. And then from there, there's a Jeep trail that will get you there if you know where you're going and you have a Jeep or a truck that can kind of go over the Jeep trail that they have there. So in order for the signs to make sense, to get to the site, there would need to be some road improvement. Would need to work with the BLM, would need to work with you in the county. I've emailed Maria Twitchell at the local tourism bureau, and the grant application deadline is the end of this month. There's $25,000 available if we were to get the grant. The signs, they would fabricate the signs or cover the cost of the fabrication of the signs, but they would not cover the installation of the signs. It's not a construction grant, but this was an implementation grant that we thought this would be valuable. The casting of the lot site, I believe, is one of the most significant historical sites in the American Southwest. Dominguez Escalante were the first recorded explorers in this area, and their journey was epic. And this site is where they decided to turn back to Santa Fe rather than to go on to California. It's my opinion, certainly not an expert opinion, but my opinion, had they tried to go to California, that they probably would not have made it, and we wouldn't know anything about them. They'd have been lost to history. But that site is where they decided that there was division among them, continue on or go back to Santa Fe, and they cast lots and decided to go back to Santa Fe. This is why we know about this expedition. It's a great site. I think it has regional importance. Certainly signs to get there would be important, but would also need some support from the county and from the BLM to make the road improvements. A gravel road would be fine, but it needs to be upgraded from the current Jeep trail that will actually get you there. The site itself, I think, is sensitive, some environmental sensitivities that the BLM has identified. There could be a parking area about a quarter mile away, and there could be a walking trail to the site itself, and I think that would be wonderful. But it would take some commitment from the county if that's something that you think we should go ahead with and pursue. Thank you.
Is there a monument there now? Or?
There is a small sign that it explains a little bit. I put together a little proposal, a preliminary sign concept. We could put some more signs out there at the site itself, as well as signs to direct people there. But one of the things that we could do is put some QR codes on the signs, and people could look up more information. In the Southwest Heritage Center, with their website, these QR codes could link to their website that would give a huge amount of information about the significance of the site. But
Yes,
I don't know.
there is cell service there.
How far off the Shotman Road is it?
If you took a direct line from the nearest point, I'd estimate 1.5 miles. But the current road now, you take the Mud Lake Road and you go south of the site, and you go past it, and then you kind of
Circle
backtrack
back
around
to
it. So the way the roads are now, there could be a more efficient site. I believe there's some private land involved. But 1.5 miles from the Shopman Road, if you took the shortest route,
Is it west of the Shotman Road?
it is east.
East of the Shotman Road?
Yeah.
So you'd be looking at, if you wanted to do those improvements, that's a fairly significant amount of gravel to bring in. Shotman Road's not too bad.
Yeah.
Less, some private to get through?
Well, from the most direct route from Shopman Road.
Okay.
But a lot of the land is BLM.
Do you
There
happen
is
to,
some private.
do you happen to know
there's-
who the owner is?
I don't know.
Okay. I'm just trying to think for
Those-
the commissioner's sake to
Yeah.
figure out what exactly, what kind of commitment that ends up being. If it's,
I understand. And I guess what we're looking for now is concept approval, and details would need to come forth if the concept is okay. Should we even proceed with the concept, and then
what about the timing of the NEPA with the BLM versus being able to apply for the money, or can you apply for the money even if you haven't got all the ducks in a row?
we can apply for the money, and then the actual award of the grant would be conditional on certain things. So as far as I understand it right now, yeah, the money needs to be spent by 2026.
Oh.
So there is time to apply for the grant and then work out some details.
Yeah, it'd be something we could definitely look at, I think.
If you would like to put that together a bit more, we've got another meeting in October, and if you want to just go to ironcounty.net and apply to be, submit your application to be on the agenda for, instead of just public comments, actually have an agenda item for the next meeting, and then maybe you can flesh that out a little bit more before the commissioners.
Certainly.
Yeah,
So-
maybe get a little
If that's what
more
the commissioners-
details as
Yes.
far as private property owners, that type of thing. Definitely with the BLM.
I sent an email to the BLM, and the person was out of town this past week, and it was just this past week that I really kind of got some fire
Oh, and
on saying this really could happen. But there's a lot of more work that needs to be done. I understand that.
Well, and one thought that I'm having is that we have a pretty good sign department, and maybe if it were appropriate, I don't know what's appropriate use of the money, but I can see the bigger financial commitment for the county being the road materials, and if the county can more inexpensively produce the signs
we
and
could
somehow
use
get some
those monies, transfer them to a different part.
to help with
you know.
maybe the acquisition or the road materials. I mean, I can't imagine it'd be too much, and often if it's the right person, we can make a phone call and see if they're willing to
Yeah,
kind of support that historical.
Probably, too, another thing that I'm thinking is if we could get, I don't know if there's any gravel in that area that we could get to build the road. a lot of times the BLM will allow us to open a pit to be able to haul gravel, and if it's a short haul, that would be huge, from that area.
There's some foothills nearby, and I don't know if there's gravel or not, but
That's probably
potentially
something we need to take up with
it could be looked
BLM. If
at.
you could maybe talk to them about that too
Okay.
in moving forward. So
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I would suggest to try and get on the next agenda. And
Okay.
yeah. Those the grant approval process for the county is the rules are fairly strict, but they can be adhered to. But we need to have an agenda item for the commissioners to be able to consider whether to apply for that.
Well, and Southwest Heritage Center could also apply for the grant for the signs. But for that to make sense,
Sure.
there would
There's
be some
gotta be
additional
more.
things. And
yeah.
And
Thank you.
that notion that we have a signed department, but the road construction and acquisition might actually be a better use of those monies if that can even be done. I don't know what the monies can be used for.
my understanding on the grant, they said not for construction, but they would for signs. So
Okay.
for that particular grant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thanks. More? Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, this is one of 84 places that the Sons of Utah Pioneers and the Southwest Heritage Center has put together. And if you
I've got it.
click on the QR code, this is where the casting of the lots is located and how you get there. So all of these 84 places are part of what we're doing with the Southwest
State your name, and then you need to
Okay.
tell the mic that same thing.
My name is Royce Nelson. I'm working with Frank Nichols and Al Matheson. We've created a nonprofit and is now registered as a 501c3 called the Southwestern Heritage Center Historical Society. We have a website called swhchs.org. We have been working with the Monuments Committee of Sons of Utah Pioneers. We have completed documentation and submitted that to National Sons of Utah Pioneers on 84 monuments in Iron County, many of them here in Parowan, and the rest of them mostly in Cedar. You can check all of those out at our website. There are 28 trails that we've identified, historic trails that go through Iron Springs and the property. The property is right off of Sage Road, which is part of what you were talking about in terms of the road improvements. So we're very interested in that. It's right at the corner of Sage Road and the railroad line on the southeast corner, right there. And it's 17 acres, which is where we will be looking at putting this stuff together. In terms of public comment, I just thought that since Jay was coming out and he was talking about us, I wanted to support him and the things that he has done. But I also thought it would be appropriate to give you, as commissioners, a report on some of the things that we've been doing. We have a MOU with the Iron County School District. They have committed $50,000, $25,000 of which we have to get matching funds for, so that would give us $75,000. We have raised $11,400 of the matching funds. I hope to close that out here in the not too distant future, so that we'll have that $75,000. That money is an annual payment, which goes towards documentation of stories that happened here in Iron County. Jay has published a bunch of these in Iron County Today, and we have permission from them to include those. We have about 63 stories that are now in the database, and we're building a user interface that will make it very easy for children and adults and parents and grandparents to go in and get these historical stories from our area. We have it set up so that you can submit stories now. Each one of you that are sitting in here and back there should have stories of people that you know that are teaching character traits. I encourage you to go online and submit those stories now. I'm trying to build as many stories as I can while we're building the front end. We just received notice last week that we have received a a $50,000 grant from the Office of Outdoor Recreation. This is particularly having to do with off-highway vehicle OHV trails in the Iron Springs area. Frank Nichols has volunteered to donate 60 miles of trails for OHV trails in the area, and the idea is that those would be transferred to the county. One of the things I need to know is how we do that transfer, because we will get credit as matching funds for the donation of those trails. So part of what we're doing with this first 50,000 is donating some of the trails to the county and actually transferring the rights. And so I need to know how it is that we go about doing that.
John would.
So,
probably-
are you going to have any of that surveyed?
Yeah, that's part of what we're doing with the 50,000 is we're going through with the local OHV club, and we're going to select the best 60 miles. We're going to survey them. We're going to build signs that show where everything goes. When that's all put together, then we would probably have a 35-foot wide or 20-foot wide
Okay.
transfer to the county.
Yeah, so that would require a proper land deed. You'd need to have a survey done. They could be as simple as doing the center line of that.
Yeah, that's what it would be. It would be the center line.
Yeah, and just define that center line and probably 17.5 on either side if you're doing a 35-foot.
Can you do that with GPS, or do you have to actually have to have an
survey
actual
grade?
survey?
It's
That's
got to
a lot
be
of surveying.
right, and it's got to be a land document. It's got to be a proper deed, and that does start to get expensive. But I do appreciate the fact that by doing so, that can be your organization's in-kind contribution,
That's correct.
and that counts toward that other grant money. I will say
this grant is really to help us prepare a grant application for $350,000, which we will submit in January. And so most of the work is going to be done under the $350,000 grant. But I just wanted you guys to be aware that we're doing this and that it relates to the county, and we think it's going to be a very positive thing for the county.
Well, and I think there's a potential hazard for the county in that if we've got 60 miles of trails, are we suddenly responsible for those trails? Is that something that Mike Worthen's going to have to take on after a few years?
Mike's aware of what we're doing.
Well, yes, but is that going to be a
It's
financial
the
obligation
upgrade.
down the road? You know,
If
I think
assume
that's
that I assume that if Frank Nichols transfers the property to the county, that there is some responsibility.
right. And the question is, does the county want to take that on? And I would suggest that eventually be a commission agenda item for the commissioners to discuss and consider, not just assume that we can do that, only because, like I say, I would hate to have the county obligated for something like that.
When do you suggest I come and present that?
I don't know,
when
what's
you
your
get a
time
little-
frame?
Yeah, your time frame.
Well,
when you're-
I expect to sign the papers in the next couple of weeks on the $50,000 grant.
Okay.
And so then we can come in and show what we've already done. We've already done a lot of work on this.
I'd say when you're closer to having an actual land conveyance, a deed prepared, or even just some conceptual maps so the commissioners can see.
We have conceptual maps. I could have brought those.
So bring
Yeah.
bring those in. I mean, if you could properly show the commissioners what you've got going, and the commissioners are able to consider, the challenges that might come from accepting that.
Okay.
The county owns a lot of property the county doesn't want to own already, and so there is a genuine hazard there. If we're looking at, trail upkeep or possible,
I know the OHV group,
liability. Yeah.
the group, the liability would be an issue we'd have to think about. But I know the OHV group does a lot of the upkeep on the other trails. So,
Well, and maybe I'm making a mountain out of a molehill, but I like I say, I just want to try and consider the county's interest on that, because it could potentially be a problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll as we work with the OHV group, we'll do all of that stuff. I think that's the main things that I wanted to say on that. So I think that's my 3 minutes. I've made notes on a whole bunch of things that you guys have talked about that I'm in the middle of, that you don't know I'm in the middle of.
Oh. Okay.
I did make copies of an article that was published in Iron County Today about flooding. I think that is extremely well written, and that you should contact that hydrologist and hire him to take care of that for the county. I mean, he's obviously retired, but I think it's a really good thing. If I can keep talking, I'll just summarize a couple of other things that I think you'll be interested in. There's a guy named Guy Thompson from Henryville. He's living half time in St. George now. He's spent 4 years developing a concept called pumped hydro energy recycling. The idea is that you have a lake, you have another lake that's much higher. You use renewable resources like solar power or wind power to pump water up to the upper lake. You drop it down and create a power plant that can create lots of power. We've identified a place to do that. One's owned by the BLM. The bottom lake is owned by the BLM. It has been studied for years. I guess my dad was involved in trying to get a lake down there for a recreation area, as well as water for the Union Field. What I didn't realize until Guy came along was that there's a similar place on the top of Fiddlers, which is about the same fall as you have at Hoover Dam, where we could put a lake, and Frank Nichols is making that available to put a lake up there. So we're doing the math and figuring out what it would cost to put a pipeline down there and to pump that water back up. I just wanted you to be aware of that. You talked a lot about Helen Foster Snow. I made over 60 trips to China. I became very close friends with some of the top leaders in the oil and gas industry over there. I first heard about Helen Foster Snow from Mr. Su Da-kun, who was the chief geologist of the Ministry of Petroleum Industry. She's a big deal in China. Mr. Su got Alzheimer's, and so he's not really around anymore, but it is a big deal. I do have a lot of contacts over there if there's anything I could help with. I think at least you two are aware that we did a lightning analysis project for Cedar City. The results were phenomenal. We learned more about the geology than I've learned for lots and lots of years. I continue to believe that it would be worthwhile for the entire county to have a lightning analysis done. If you have interest at any time, I'm glad to either one-on-one or as a group show you the results we got for Cedar City, the things that we could do in terms of defining things like the caldera, which forms the basis for the Gold Springs stuff. I've been out there with Randy Moore several times. There's going to be 300 employees out there. It's a big deal for the county.
Royce, I will suggest there is a gentleman that has done much of the development with solar in Iron County. His name is Luigi Resta, and you might consider pitching that pumped hydro project to him. He has been interested in those in the past. At least I've had conversations to that matter. And if you want to check with me offline, I've got his contact information for
my
you.
contact, just send it to me. I do have a group that just got, they're talking billions of dollars in investment that I'm going to be taking this to. So I'm hoping that I can just get it funded myself, but I wanted you guys to be aware of it.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Roy.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on, and we'll go to number 2, discussion and approval of vehicle sales on the surplus web. And they're all outlined there, and we'll let Wade tell us about them.
So there's 7 vehicles on here that are ready to dispose of, to be sold. for multiple departments, either high mileage or some mechanical issues. And then there's 2 on here that are from the Sheriff's Department, Search and Rescue. They're the 10.25 M561 Gamma Goats, if you've ever seen them. So they've been,
Are they at the road department?
they're Search and Rescue.
Search and rescue.
Just behind the west of the road department. And they've been, talked with the state, they've been approved to be sold. So demilitarized, however you say it. So they're okay to sell, dispose of how the county sees fit. So need your
Anything else?
approval? I don't think so. There's one.
Okay.
There's one bus on here from the aging department where they got rid of the Burl facility out there, that department. So I don't know if anybody would need that, but we're just planning on selling it as well. So
Just on the surplus.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Call for a motion.
I'll move to approve the vehicle sale on the surplus web site, and without reading that, I'll just, as listed in the agenda. How's that?
good.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Okay,
very
John.
good.
A lot of no.
So and also item number agenda 4. Do you want to take care of that one real quick?
Yep.
So
Discussion and possible approval of interdepartmental vehicle transfer policy.
yeah. So I don't know if you guys got the little memo or not, but we're starting to get more vehicles in. This was needed more when we weren't, and I don't know how long this is going to be. I mean, there's the economy, or with the vehicle, what do you call it? Just get new vehicles in.
Fleet.
Yeah.
With the fleet. Mhm.
So this could last for a couple of years still. I mean, talking with our suppliers, they don't see any change in the near future. So we've been having to move vehicles in between departments to make things work. We'll get rid of one old vehicle, and then we'll have a decent one that we can move to another department. And so, talking with the attorney's office, they feel that it's more of an administrative move, not so much needed to be in an open meeting. So I've just requested to have this policy put in place to be able to do that, just to, in our department, to be able to move vehicles back and forth.
And you're going to have an agreement you've got an agreement
So
that made out with Sam's helped you
Yeah,
with.
so and I can read this policy if you want me to, what it says, but it just states that vehicles currently owned by Iron County may be transferred between departments as needed under the supervision and recommendation of the Iron County Fleet Operations Supervisor and in consultation with the Fleet Department Commission Liaison. So records of interdepartmental vehicle transfers will be kept and maintained by Iron County Fleet Department. Additionally, the Fleet Department will provide the same recorded information to the Iron County Clerk's Office for concurrent record keeping. So, yeah, auditors too. So we'll add them in there.
Could you come up to the microphone and tell us your name?
I knew it.
You're getting no sympathy today, man.
He always, every time he opens his mouth, he has to come up to the mic.
So, in the past, the clerk's office was actually doing the role that the fleet department is doing now, and I don't know now. I mean, I think we both need to know because you still need to update insurance, and then I need to update the inventory list. If let's say if we're transferring between something in the general fund and an enterprise fund, I need to we possibly need to sell it between funds or something like that. So. That's all I was saying is that we need to just make sure it's and I talked to Wade about this offline. I don't see any problem with just doing these in-house.
The main gist is that instead of bringing every one of these before the commission, is that it can be done administratively. That's the point.
Well, but my point in actually making a deal about this is in 10 years when we're all dead and gone. I'm just joking. But when we all are gone, and then at least, the policy is set that flows and makes sense, because you'd hate for like the clerk's office to be left out of and then they're like, we're not getting this information, we're not keeping our insurance up to date, or my department or so on. So.
Okay. Can we have a motion on this? On 4?
I'll move. I'll move for approval of the interdepartmental vehicle transfer policy as read by Wade.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thanks, Wade. We'll go back to 3, discussion and possible approval of local matching grants regarding future water projects in Iron County. And we will have our illustrious Dan Jessen talk about this.
I don't know about illustrious. Also, I don't know if we're planning on approving anything today. But the nice thing about it being on there that way is if you guys decided to, you could. So just a real quick update. We had submitted an application that was kind of it was a county application, but it was in conjunction with the cities, towns, and communities to the state for their local match grant, which we were not awarded. They kept telling us and promising that there would be a second round, and then it was funded, so we were waiting for that to happen. And come to find out, they actually switched it to a different department within the state government and completely retooled it and changed the rules and kind of ran it through kind of quietly. So
Kind of didn't know.
anyways, we're in a public meeting, so I'm not going to say much more about that.
Could you tell us what the grant was? I never did get that information. Like, what
So
kind of
it
grant?
was,
It was a $50
this is
million.
what it was called. It was called a local match grant, where the state was taking some of its ARPA dollars. They reached out to the local governments and said, listen, if you guys want to have some projects that fit the ARPA guidelines, and they actually kind of narrowed it to a certain number of things. And the original one had water, wastewater, seems like they had economic development, they had but it was all ARPA related stuff. So when they came out with that, really it was Paul's idea to say, let's do something with water projects. Let's use some of our ARPA money for water projects, consulted with the other commissioners, and we came up with the idea that if we could get local communities to put money in, we would put money in, and essentially the state would then match that combined total local money, and local communities would get 4-to-1 on their money, and we could really do some great projects. So that's really where it all came from. When it got retooled the second time at the state, they actually changed it, and they said that they moved it to the governor's office, economic development, OEO, whatever that is. GOEO, sorry, I knew I was saying that wrong. And they lowered the ceiling of what the grant was available to be used, the amount that could be applied for. They kind of changed what it could be used for a little bit, but the biggest thing, they had a couple of criteria that had to be met, including the local government that was applying couldn't have used a significant amount of revenue replacement was one of the criteria. Well, the county is using 90% of its funds for revenue replacement. There was another one as well that you could debate whether that applied to us or not. And then they kind of ran it through really quickly, and they changed it from prioritization from the previous committee that had taken all these grants, and they said you're going to have to apply again from scratch, and it's first come, first serve. And it was done fairly quickly, and there wasn't a lot of information given.
We found out.
By the time we found out about it,
before it was due.
it was like the last day, and we probably would have been eliminated just for the fact that we had so much in revenue recovery anyways. So it is what it is. We decided to forego even applying for that and being stuck in a holding pattern for who knows how many more months anyways. So now, we're looking to hit the reset button. The county still has its money set aside, which is $1,060,000. And so really, we wanted to put it on the agenda so that we could discuss it and discuss, do we want to retool this thing? Do we want to keep it similar to what it used to look like? Do we want to change our approach? Do we want to expand the nature of it? Before, we were really just looking at water projects. Specifically, we were kind of looking at culinary, and then we decided we would expand that to recharge maybe, and we had several different projects, which now because it's taken so long. A lot of these projects are now will have been changed. I know that the entities themselves are interested in using the money in different ways, and so how far do we hit the reset button on this, and what does that look like? And so that's what we're talking about.
Well, we had a discussion. Dan contacted us, and we've bantered this around a little bit. We've talked about maybe retooling this and going to where the entities apply, kind of like we did with the state. Give us your ideas, what your needs are. And we've thought about, initially we just thought about using this for water projects only, but I know there's some needs within the communities for flood mitigation. And so we've thought about opening it up to that. You know, one of the concerns I had when we first looked at this is we looked at a population-based metric to allocate funds, but that really wasn't fair to the real small areas like Newcastle and Paragoon, Parowan. You know, all the smaller.
They just
Brian
don't
Head.
have the resources like the other bigger cities and that.
Right, and so population base wasn't real fair, so we bumped them up. You know, but. And then with Cedar City, you know, obviously with the population-based formula, they would get a lot of the money. And we thought, when we talked about initially was the interconnect with Cedar City and the Central Iron County Water Conservancy District, we thought that would benefit the unincorporated. So if Cedar City received a lot of those funds, that would benefit all of the area, not just Cedar City proper. And so I guess as we move forward, my concern would be that and I know Paul Bittman's here with Cedar City and Rob Dotson with Enoch, and Molly Halderman, Mayor Halderman. So, but anyway, I've heard that there's maybe some talk about some more recharge projects with some of those funds with the water district. Anyway, we probably just need to get some ideas, flesh this out, and I don't know that we're prepared to make a decision today. But maybe let's have a discussion.
We want to hear what these guys have to say. Maybe projects that
I'd
maybe
love,
not. I mean,
love for them to talk and kind of, but I don't think we're ready today either to make that decision. I think we need to kind of hash it out, but we want to hear from you guys.
Well, and I would like to find out where we're at with some of the existing projects. And I've had one-on-one conversations, but with some of the existing projects that were planned, are those still viable?
Waiting for
or what is maybe the highest priority? And would there be interest in expanding it to stormwater? What about wastewater? I mean, is that part of the conversation? What would everybody like the commission to consider? I guess would be a good conversation.
Well, and we'd originally lumped kind of Summit in with Parowan Valley, and I've learned since then that they have a dire need for a new irrigation pipeline to run down to their reservoir down the canyon, and that's something they'd asked me about.
Didn't include Summit either, right?
That's what I'm talking about.
The Summit.
And they'd asked me about some gift in kind, just helping them with some excavation costs and things as a county. But there's some needs in some of those other areas that we hadn't really factored in. So.
Yeah, we lumped Summit in with Parowan, and the idea that originally it was a recharge project, which would benefit the valley, including Summit by definition there. But I don't know if they really felt like that was the best use. And and Molly's here. I have my Iron County hat on right now, but I know that there's even the original project that was discussed for Parowan. There's a lot of need for some recharge projects, and there's a debate as to where to put it, who will pony in what money. But storm drain. There's a lot of needs there too. So, anyways, like I said, I don't want to speak for Molly, but do you guys want to? Should I sit down? Do you want to? What do you think?
Let's hear from each one of them if they wouldn't mind. State your name. Thank you.
Mayor Halterman, Parowan. We've been working on a lot of things. I know you know how aggressively I've been trying to meet with people, and we've met with the canal company. We've met with the pumpers a few times. We've met Obviously, as Parowan City, we've now met with the state engineer again last month. We had a meeting with the pumpers with that group again. And more recently, we met with Tom Marston from the USGS. We met with him a few days ago. And so we're really trying to pull together our best option. And like you said, Paul, we have like this need for this pipeline, but we're not really sure that that's the right project. I mean, that's a pretty extensive project and it's an expensive project. And so, even talking to Richard Wilson, he's got some great ideas too about where he just sees the best place to do that recharge. And so we've got some really good options and we're really just kind of boiling them down right now and figuring out kind of, I would say, the best bang for our buck. And the nice thing is the pumpers do have some money, and they have mention of pipe in their grant, but pipe could be, in other locations too. We've talked about the gravel pit, we've talked about above breakwater, we've talked about out there past kind of more in the KB area where they're just natural river rock. There's some pretty neat opportunities like from the geology standpoint, they're all supported with data. So it isn't like we're just taking a shot in the dark on these. We'd also like to look at, and we've talked about this for a long time, about that second holding pond, just a dry canyon pond, maybe even another storage tank, So there's just a lot of moving parts, but we all, at the end of all of this, we know we're going to need money. And so it's how much money, what can we do today? Even learning from the state engineer, we have recharge, but we don't have meters to measure what we're recharging. So meters to measure the recharge and watch and measure and keep record of those water levels so that we actually can get credit for that, but also do proper reporting so that we're not just, again, out here, we're measuring wells, we're hauling trailers around, we're having these great meetings, everyone's coming, very motivated, but where we can start feeding back some data to the state engineer. And the other thing we're pushing for is a longer time. We've got 13 years right now. We're pushing for 20. We don't know how reasonable it is to see a stabilization of a water table in 13 years. I mean, this stuff takes a while. It takes a while for things to really start to change. But the good news is we aren't sitting still just kind of waiting for something to fall in our lap or someone to answer these questions for us. We're going to come with the best answers and really the best use of funding. But it kind of helps us identify that better if we have an idea of what that funding is going to look like. So I don't know if you have any questions. I know I look really tired. This is really taking a toll on her. This segment of what we're doing right now is so important, so critical, as just like it is for Cedar, but we have such different parameters. And even more recently, it's like, you guys are still going to have to meter your secondary. And we're like, please stop saying that. So we need to figure this stuff out, but we do feel partnered with all of you. I know that you're all vested in Parowan, and even just in talking to your engineer and other people that are looking out for us and watching out for us. I think Paraguna, we're in a great place with Paraguna Summit. I mean, we've got an area that we're all working really well together and communicating really well. We do have a meeting this week with the pumpers again. It's on Thursday at 10 o'clock. So if any of the commissioners would like to come to that, I think it's going to be a little bit of a rubber hit the road because we do know we need to make a decision on what we're going to do. And we need to decide before our meeting in November where we'll meet with the state engineer again. So just don't think we're sitting out here on our hands and not trying to solve our own problems, but we also know that we're going to need some help. So
very good.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Molly. Who's next? Rob?
Rob Dotson, Enoch City Manager. Going to save the best for last, right, Paul? Yeah, that's how it goes. On behalf of the Mayor and City Council of Enoch City, I'm here to kind of talk to you about our thought processes when it comes to this funding. One of the things that I want to bring to remind you is the integrity of the process and the purpose of these funding and how well we figured it was done in the first place. In fact, there's a sense of gratitude that the Enoch City Council and Mayor has towards the county for working together with us to solve some of our problems. And that initial grant application was for a new well, which we were in negotiations with and have been with for many years. Since then, that negotiation has now diminished to nothing. But we also know that gravity and moisture has created some issues within Enoch City. I wouldn't say created them, they were always been there, that we need to actually go in and solve some problems. And we've been working almost weekly on multiple projects. We're in negotiations with 10 property owners for property to do some mitigation projects with. We have a $650,000 grant with NRCS on some just planning a design for the East Bench of above Enoch City, and another $350,000 grant for some projects within Enoch City from NRCS that's supposed to be done at the end of November, which we don't have the plans for yet. We'll see how that works out. But the original $155,000 grant application that we were requesting from the county to match with Enoch City's 155 and then go to the state would have taken care of that well issue to a certain extent. But now we have to revert to some storm drainage challenges. And those projects that we have in mind, not in mind, are actually designed and ready to build right now. In fact, we're starting one of them this next week to build some curb and gutter and do some underground drainage in a certain area that seems to be hit pretty hard. In fact, last Sunday, and I know that you were all aware of the storm, and mostly in Enoch, where it dropped almost 2 inches of rain in about another 45-minute period.
In hell.
And yeah, we call it hell, not hail.
Hail.
But anyway, yeah, it's really important that we help mitigate some of these issues. Most of the rain, actually, now a lot of the projects we've done have actually been mitigating. Even that storm itself, there was no houses flooded specifically from the, you could say, the rights of way. Those were actually from the hail filling people's rain gutters and overspilling into their basements and stuff. So, yeah, what do you do about that, right? Can't mitigate that unless we warm up the earth so there's no hail.
The hail literally shredded tree leaves and filled rain gutters with leaves.
Oh yeah, yeah. Go by my house and see the apple tree is no longer have leaves on it. It's early fall in Enoch, literally. And so, along the lines of the integrity of the process and the integrity of the purpose, I've been instructed by the city council, if whatever process you go to is to come back with the same exact amount, that same request, but just switch the project to water from rain and not water from under the ground. So that's my instruction.
Okay.
So if you'll consider that in how you go about doing this, I believe that, and we believe the process was genius, and that process potentially would be very appropriate to follow.
Well, I think it was $50 million they had available, and it seemed like a lot of money, but I think they end up about $1 billion in requests.
Yeah,
it was just a lot.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of need, and so that's the issue you have, is who's going to decide where that money goes and how you go through that process, and that's why we consider the integrity of that process was just perfect. So
yeah.
So thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
And the torch.
Good morning, Paul Bittman with Cedar City. Thank you for doing this. The commission didn't have to do this. You chose to do this and make these funds available to the local municipalities, and we appreciate you doing that. Since we first talked, we still have water issues that we need to take care of and fund, and that we still have a lot of long-term water issues that are very expensive that we need to take care of and fund. We also have a number of stormwater issues that we need to fund, and this would help us greatly fund some of those stormwater issues. Our stormwater issues are your stormwater issues, because once it runs through Cedar City, it's headed out for the county or to Rob, Enoch. So stormwater issues might be a good regional approach to helping with some of these. Two off the top of my head, they're both with NRCS. One is the redesign and rebuild of the Green Lakes dikes. That's scheduled for 2024, I think, or that's the last schedule I knew of. And the other is redoing the riprap up Cedar Canyon. These funds would help us with either project or both, but we still have a lot of water needs as well that we could team up with the Conservancy District on. So I suppose our message is thank you for doing this. Please tell us what you would like to see submitted, and we'll submit.
Okay.
What? So, Paul, I've heard talk about maybe some more recharge. Would that be in conjunction with the effluent, with the way?
Well, Mayor Green put together a working group that meets with him every other Wednesday to try to figure out something to do with the wastewater. As you may remember, that's whatever we do with that wastewater. The price tags are fairly large, so this would help us there as well.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Oh, she's coming back
Oh,
up.
it's too late, Mayor.
I didn't start with thank you. And I tell so many people how much I appreciate what you've done for us with this money. I mean, I've said over and over, they didn't have to help us. They didn't even have to do anything for us. And that's been hard. It's been hard to maintain even the offer. And so I guess my gratitude is an exchange for work and figuring out the best way to use any money that we get is kind of was my message. But I didn't say thank you, so I'm not going to not say thank you.
Oh,
Thank you. Okay, I think we'll. Do you guys have any comments on that? I think we probably ought to.
I'll make a motion that we table this and further discuss it and come back at a later date.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, very good. Okay, we'll move on to number 5, discussion and possible approval of transfer of a handheld radio to Cedar City Airport. And this is George.
George Colson, Iron County Emergency Management. Morning.
Morning.
So a little background. I know Commissioner Blake is aware of this, but just for general knowledge, UCA is the quasi-governmental agency that administers radio frequencies for public safety in the state. And with a lot of agencies going to 800s, they've been talking for years about going to a radio system that's more interoperable. We had different operating systems in the state, and they weren't. And so UCA has finally made a commitment by the fourth quarter of 2023 to go ahead and transfer all of the state radios over into what's called a P25 operating system where it's interoperable, which would make all of the radios that we have right now, if they're not P25 compliant, would make them useless. You could listen, but you couldn't talk. And so I brought that to the attention of the commission. You graciously gave me money to buy a new handheld and a new mobile for my vehicle. So the handheld and the mobile that I've got now, within a year, a little over a year, they would be pretty much just expensive paperweights. But so I didn't want them to go completely, to waste. And so I offered both radios. I know I'm here to talk about the handheld, but the mobile as well will go to the Cedar City airport manager, which will allow him to then be able to listen in and contact fire or law enforcement in case there's an emergency out there, and he can monitor those. And he doesn't have any right now. So
to clarify, you're talking about the handheld and the mobile.
And the mobile.
Yeah.
I know I estimated the cost of the handheld at about $2,500. What would you say the mobile would be? It's a Motorola. About $6,000. So between the two of them, about
$8,500.
About $8,500 for the.
And that's before the new standard takes place.
That's before the new standard. Well, yeah, and they've got some years on them. The mobile's probably older than the handheld. So,
Dan?
Yeah.
I see the Cedar manager out there. And George and I talked about this morning. To be clear, I mean, we help Cedar City Airport, we help Parowan Airport with some money. At the end of the day, this is their responsibility. And we are busy trying to find funds to put radios into our fire and stuff like this. This radio is expiring. George has explained it to me. So this will give them a little bit of a, I just would want to make sure that this doesn't set some new precedent that we're the ones that buy radios for them. They really need to fund these themselves and kick in. I love cooperation. I love that if you guys decide that we can help them out, but they need to know that at the end of the day, they need to fund this. If we have an emergency or disaster, we got to be able to communicate with them. But I just want to be careful that we don't set some new precedent that now this is a county responsibility that we provide radios under the guise that it's emergency. All of this, of course, is my opinion, and of course, me being really stingy and whatever. But I also know that in our upcoming budget hearings, there's going to be some pretty big requests for 800 megahertz radios, and so we are feeling that burden just like all the cities are. So that's what I wanted to say.
And I will not even counter, but just the idea behind that is that this is a once-off, and we're talking about equipment that's essentially becoming obsolete. So donating obsolete equipment, I do agree, though, we need to be very careful not to set some kind of a precedent where there's some expectation that we're providing radios for people. But
well, and if I make sure that I'm not giving false information, but I think the need for this arose out of the last disaster drill when we realized that we didn't have any kind of communication with the airport.
It's probably pretty important.
And there's, the disaster drill was, the scenario was a downed airplane at the airport. There was no way to coordinate with airport staff, and there hasn't really been any, it's a tactful word, there hasn't been any interest the part of Cedar City to provide that service and infrastructure.
you can say it quiet, but he's standing out in the hall, and
I know,
we're streaming to YouTube.
The Cedar City, I'll just leave it at that.
Well, so let me ask this question from just a practical perspective of using the radios. So they will only be valuable in listening to the chatter, right?
No, they'll until the last quarter of next year, they'll be able to talk and listen. It's just that after UCA goes ahead and reprograms all of our radios, then they'll be able to listen, but they won't be able to talk.
And so, again, I'm not trying to make a mountain out of this. I'm just what is their plan to use? How are they planning on using this? Like, how is this helping them?
Oh, the airport?
Yes.
Well, the handheld and the mobile will go in his vehicle, and if there's an emergency, he'll be right now until the end of 2023. He'll be able to talk and talk to law enforcement, talk to fire rescue, be able to talk to dispatch, which he doesn't have the capability of right now, as Commissioner Blake pointed out. And that's one of the things that brought this up for me, was in participating in this exercising, realizing that here I had an airport manager who was not able to either listen or talk to public safety. For me, I mean, that's what I'm hired for, is to watch out for county public safety. I realized this was a shortcoming that needed to be filled, and it just so happened that when I came to the commission and said, can I go ahead and jump on board and get my radios before everybody else does, my compliant radios, you said yes, and I said, well, then here's a good use for those until that time.
I would hope that over the next, until that particular set of radios becomes obsolete, I would hope that at that point, that budgetary needed to be absorbed by the city with their department.
Yeah. So they need to be made aware of that. I guess they know that this is just a one-time thing, right? Do we need to?
I haven't discussed that with any of the elected or appointed officials of Cedar City, other than the airport manager.
Well, and we probably need to have some written documentation of that,
and
right?
that's something, I sit on the airport board, and that can also be something that's brought up with the board and made made very clear.
So if I can sum up the answer to your question is, yes, we're being very nice, and it's going to work great until that obsolescence happens, and at that point, Cedar City will have to decide what their priority is. Is that correct? Is that
Yes,
a fair
and
restatement?
I would stress to them if they asked me, if I was asked, that it's really a public safety issue, and I would highly recommend that they go ahead and continue that process and get the manager stuff that he can use for disasters.
Can you do that documentation, George, to make sure that?
I guess I'm not sure what you're getting
Well,
at.
Like
I'm
an
just-
MOU, or just say, look, we're going to do this as a one-off.
This is one, I think we need it in writing, because otherwise he comes back and says,
Where's our new radio?
where's our new radios?
I would disagree. I mean, if we've kind of really exercised that point in the meeting. We'll be able to refer back to the meeting minutes, and this is a once-off. And if we're talking about equipment that's going to be obsolete, I mean, we can certainly pursue an MOU if you would like. I think the minutes will suffice.
I agree. That's
Okay.
And I guess just on a personal level, or on just maybe putting more conspiracy theory into it than I need to. I don't want to give anybody an opportunity to refuse the offer of the
Right.
of the
Radios.
two radios, and so I would just as soon make it as low key as possible. Just here's your radios. You know.
Well, and we will make it abundantly clear in the minutes that we discussed the different concerns and would that assuage your
Yeah.
concerns?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that'd be fine
Okay.
to have it in the minutes. I just want documentation because I don't want them to come back and say something. So,
Yeah, it will be
yeah.
memorialized.
So, can we have a motion on
Yeah.
agenda number
I would
5?
move to approve the transfer of both the handheld radio and the mobile radio out of the vehicle that are the 800 megahertz radio to the Cedar City Airport, noting that this is equipment that will soon be obsolete. Rather than having it sit on our shelf while it still has some use, that it will be used in furtherance of the emergency management effort. And this is a one-time thing, not an ongoing. We're responsible for their communications.
Second.
Okay. Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And just one last thing, and the actual transfer of the radios will not take place until my handheld. I've got the handheld right now. Motorola sent me the handheld, but it still has to be programmed by UCA. So as soon as that's done, then I will turn the handheld over. I haven't got the mobile yet, but as soon as I get the mobile and UCA programs it, then I will turn that over. So it's not I'm going to go today and give it to them. It's when my equipment then becomes operable.
Okay.
All right.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay, go to number 6 on the agenda. Resolution 2022-10, appointing a representative and an alternate representative for the annual Utah Counties Indemnity Pool, USEP, annual meeting to be held November 16th, 2022. And
That's a
I think
mouthful.
That's you. Is that you?
Yes. So just to clarify, this is a resolution that USIP requires that the county commission consider each year. As a member of the Utah Counties Indemnity Pool, Iron County is a voting member. We vote on general things and also for counties of the third class. I'm happy to continue to do that. We know ahead of time what the issues will be, and I generally discuss it with the commissioners and kind of vote the will of Iron County in that meeting. So I'm happy to continue to do it, or if you'd rather have somebody else, that's fine. But the resolution has me in because of that's historical, but whatever.
You're good with that?
I'm good with that.
Good.
I'm going to be there anyway. So.
Well, it says to do an alternative. How about I'll volunteer to be the alternative? If
I think
somehow-
they had
or do we have
Gary,
one?
didn't they?
Did we? Or do we have somebody else?
So what we do
already?
is we list Jen as the alternate.
Oh, Jen.
okay.
And that's
right.
because she and Betsy are very involved with USIP.
Yeah.
So Jennifer Bradbury's the alternate.
Yeah, and that's
That works.
that's actually
In the
it's like a
resolution.
pre-written resolution that we just plug our information in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll move to reappoint or to continue with John Whitaker, our clerk, serving as representative for the annual Utah County Indemnity Pool annual meeting, with the alternate to be being Jennifer Bradbury, our HR director.
Second.
Sorry. So it's actually, we're voting on the resolution.
Okay.
Okay.
To approve the resolution?
Yeah, 2022-10.
Okay, so I'll add that to my motion. To approve the resolution 2022-10.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. We need
Yeah, that's perfect.
We need to convene as the Board of Equalization. Discussion and approval of the Board of Equalization hearing. Officer recommendations for appeals filed for 2022. Carrie?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ooh. Big ol'.
Okay, so this very first report is just general information report. It has a log of all of the appeals that were filed this year, the outcomes, the decisions of every one of them. The two reports I want to draw your attention to are the last two, which is my spreadsheet that I keep for the adjustments that are for the board that I balance to.
The last 2 pages?
The last two reports, the one that's color-coded and then the very last one. So that first one is just given to you for general information for you to review. So the Excel spreadsheet that has the color-coded.
So it says 1 of 12 on it?
Yep, 1 of 12. This report shows the total of adjustments that we did this year. We had a total of 462 appeals this year. That's up, I think, 245 more than last year. We did a total of adjustments for market value adjustments of $34,322,781 in adjustments. The taxable adjustments that were adjusted were $29,585,075 in adjustments. You will notice that there's a small adjustment that the State Tax Commission did adjust the ZAO group, the centrally assessed one that's also included in this spreadsheet, by $3,387. Those adjustments represent to the general fund an offset difference of $35,498.03. Municipal service adjustments or decrease or credit to the municipal services $10,476.70 for a total tax difference adjustments of $45,974.73.
I just wanted to say, so the reason that there's a difference there is because the difference in those adjustments goes to the cities and the school and all that stuff.
Yeah, I didn't bring the breakouts of each of those.
And also, I wanted to say, Carrie she's absolutely a superhero. This was a brutal year for Board of Equalization. I've been running all over the globe, and I just don't even worry about it because Carrie has this handled. Also, she's assisted the assessor's office. We had a little bit of a glitch with workflow, and so some of that stuff it all has to be corrected in the Board of Adjustments while the county auditor's office has the tax roll. So she's done a mountain of work to get all of those things included and get the tax roll rebalanced again. You guys need to know what an asset Carrie is to the county. And finally, to Nicole's point earlier, there probably should be more on here, but not a lot of people look at their valuation notices. So from this point going forward, they're going to get their tax bill from Nicole when she sends it out soon. They're going to freak out and then find out that they've missed the window. But we have to follow the process and keep to the deadlines that are there statutorily. So.
Well, and I don't want to preempt any of that other than to say she did that in addition to keeping the payroll going, which, I mean, I know the long hours she puts in.
That's pretty important.
We all appreciate Carrie, especially on payday, but
we really
all
do.
really appreciate Carrie. Yeah.
Yes, thank you for all your work, Carrie. Sure. I guess we need a motion to approve all this.
So I would move to approve the Board of Equalization hearing officer recommendations for the appeals filed for the year 2022 presented by Carrie Christiansen.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you very much. We sure appreciate you and all your work. We need to reconvene as the Iron County Commission. Two of them. Okay, while we're getting that signed, we might as well have Jennifer come up with personnel.
Hello.
Hi.
I'll cover 7A through C first, if that's okay for your consideration, and then I'll move on to insurance, which is 7D. So in the assessor's office, Joseph Peterson was selected from the most recent competitive recruitment and selection process to backfill the vacant full-time assessor trainee effective October 3rd, 2022. In the IT department, Jager Christensen was selected from the most recent competitive recruitment and selection process to backfill the vacant full-time web developer technician effective October 17th, 2022. And in the Sheriff's Office Corrections, Robert Leva was selected from the most recent competitive recruitment and selection process to backfill the vacant full-time Deputy 1 position effective October 30th, 2022.
Okay, so can we get a motion
I'll
on
move
that much?
in personnel on agenda item 8. I would move to approve items A through C as outlined by Jennifer.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, on to insurance. We've had meetings with our broker NFP as well as meetings with the Employee Insurance Committee the past couple weeks. We've received our insurance renewal figures for the 2023 year. So our insurance renewal came in at 3% increase, or $73,913.28. Combined with the opt-out figures, the total cost for insurance for the 2023 year will be $2,923,590.48. In comparison, industry standard for insurance renewals for the 2023 year, what we're being told by NFP is nearing 7%. So our 3% is very favorable comparatively.
Wow.
So I'll give that as a win. It's important to cover rebates since they reduce the costs for our renewals. For instance, for the 2022 year, our renewal was 2.5%, but with the rebate we received in May, our renewal adjusted to a 2.18%. So we're hopeful that we'll have a strong rebate for next year to offset the renewal cost. The costs for both vision and dental remain unchanged, which is always nice to hear. And for supplemental benefits, with your consideration, we'd like to slowly move away from the Aflac products and transition to MetLife, who came in very competitive during our bid. The handful of employees who are grandfathered into the rates and would like to remain on Aflac will be able to do so, but for open enrollment purposes, MetLife would be the only selection for those voluntary products for our employees. And they cover the costs for those. Open enrollment will be November 7th through the 10th, and email reminders will be sent soon. We love to connect to the employees during open enrollment and actually see them face to face, so that's why we like to have them open and not through the web. So we're excited to see them again. So if you have any questions on that, I'm happy to answer those. But I also sent a packet for your commission packet if you wanted to look over all of the hard data on that as well.
Could you maybe expound on the supplemental part?
Supplemental as far as, and I've got it in my little pamphlet here to kind of tell you, our employees get offered some benefits at their own cost, which is always kind of nice to be able to take charge of your own needs and wants, I guess. That includes your voluntary accident, critical illness, and hospital plans. So if that's like if you have cancer in your family and want to have that critical illness that's important to you, then you have that option to do so. And it comes in at a lower cost because it's offered throughout the LGRP.
What about the decision? What was behind the decision to move from?
In
Aflac
all
to
honesty,
MetLife?
Aflac's been kind of a pain for Carrie as far as billing purposes go. And the past couple of years, we've been told that there have been better programs out there. We've been hesitant because for Carrie's sake, I like to only have one billing, but she was very gracious to offer the grandfather plan for those that actually would benefit from Aflac. And there's about handful of people that will probably choose to stay on that for a certain amount of products, and she's been willing to do that. So I'm very grateful that she's offered to do that. Otherwise, it's just a better plan for all of our employees.
Awesome, thank you.
You bet.
Very good. Okay, can I have a motion on the insurance renewal?
I would move to approve the employee insurance benefits for the 2023 plan year as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Okay. Any non-delegated? Any boards? Anything we need to bring up?
I know on the Planning Commission, Reed was working on a name.
Yeah, and Enoch, I think we needed a new person, but we haven't gotten anyone yet.
No, not that I know that Reed had reached out to an individual and was working through that.
Okay.
But I haven't heard anything since he was working on that the other day.
Hey, other than that, is there anything else that... Oh, we got Richard up.
At the conclusion, I'd like to take a few minutes of the commissioner's time to talk about right-of-ways and easements. We can do that off the record, not because it's just so that yes, it's administrative.
Yeah. Okay, after
Yes.
shut down the recording, we'll visit with you.
Okay.
Okay. I think we'll close the meeting then.